Good morning, everyone. In previous lecture, we have completed uh, metabolism, production, its classification, and etiology of bilirubin, or you can say jaundice. So, in today's lecture, we will see how to approach the patient with jaundice. So, first of all, what are the site of examination where you can see the yellowish discoloration? So, the most common site for yellowish discoloration of bilirubin is sclera. So it is the first sign. So whenever you get yellowish discoloration of sclera, it means patient has jaundice and its serum bilirubin level is more than 3 mg per dl. So if sclera is yellowish, the next common site which should be inspected or examined is beneath the tongue. So here in this diagram you can see there is an yellowish discoloration of this tongue. So whenever you get yellowish discoloration of sclera, after that you should inspect the tongue. Then after tongue, skin should be looked for the yellowish discoloration of skin. Here optional is green. So greenish discoloration of skin, it is noted whenever there is excessive production of biliverdin. So biliverdin, which is also a precursor of bilirubin. So if biliverdin is more, the skin will become green, and if bilirubin is more, skin will become yellow. After skin, one should inspect urine. So in that, patient may complain of tea or cola colored urination. So in this diagram you can see the color of urine has been changed, and it is somewhat, or it looks similar to the or Pepsi or Coca-Cola, right? So this type of discoloration may occur in urine also. So whenever there is such type of discoloration of urine is seen, so it means patient has conjugated hyperbilirubinemia, which is mostly due to hepatic injury, or you can say hepatic dysfunctions. Because if bilirubin is seen in urine, it means in pathophysiology, or you can say in bilirubin metabolism, we have seen that after conjugation of bilirubin, then it is excreted into the feces, and some amount of bilirubin it is excreted in the urine. So that means conjugated bilirubin is coming into the urine. So this is called as bilirubin urea also. So it is means the disease or abnormality is in the liver. The next is history. So history is important. So if patient comes with low grade fever since 1 to 2 days, usually associated with headache, myalgia, anorexia, nausea, and vomiting, so which are all constitutional symptoms, you can say. If patient comes with low grade fever and constitutional features, which is then followed by jaundice, and along with this, if patient has some change in taste and smell of food, or there is a history of patient who has contact with individuals with jaundice, means patient may have come in contact in a patient who has already a jaundice. So such history you may get then needle stick exposure, or any injection, or blood piercing, shared razors, or toothbrushes. So you should also ask for this type of history also. Then history of blood or blood product transfusion, or patient may have physical contact with commercial sex workers, or patient may have multiple partners, or with individuals with hepatitis B or C. So all these points, they usually indicate acute viral hepatitis. And some patient, they may have history of sexually transmitted disease also. So all you know, hepatitis B virus, it is usually spread through or it can be spread through blood or blood product transfusion, then needle stick injuries, So all these features, they usually indicate acute viral hepatitis. Then if patient has history of binge drinking and daytime drinking, so binge drinking means patient is drinking continuously day and night without eating, so that is called as binge drinking. So if patient has binge drinking and daytime drinking, and also if patient has history of some withdrawal symptoms or seizures. So that means patient maybe he was drinking some 1 year back or 2 year back, or you can say 6 months back, and after this 6 months, patient may have some withdrawal symptoms. So if patient has such withdrawal symptoms or patient has some history of seizures, again CAC criteria. So we will not go in detail with CAC criteria. So it is for to know cut down of alcohol, annoyed feeling for the alcohol, guilt, and eye opener. That means patient requires alcohol in the morning to perform his regular work, or you can say to keep his nerve steady. So that is why, or that is an eye opener. So if CAC criteria, it usually indicates alcohol dependence, and if there is a history which suggestive of alcohol related illness like pancreatitis or gastritis or peripheral neuropathy. So all these are alcohol related illnesses. So if patient usually gives a past history of pancreatitis or gastritis or peripheral neuropathy, so it will usually suggest alcohol induced liver disease. So the cause of jaundice in this patient or in such patient will be alcohol induced liver disease. So it is very simple, or it can be easily diagnosed. Then next one, you should also look for the medications that patient is taking, because in etiology we have also seen there are certain drugs which are responsible for hepatocellular injury, and this hepatocellular injury then it was responsible for jaundice. So we should also review all the medications which patient is taking, like AKT, ciprofloxacin, amoxicillin, azithromycin, erythromycin. So there are multiple drugs. So all the drug we should review to find out uh, the cause for the jaundice. And again, if patient has history of pruritic rash or joint pain or swelling which is related to some drug intake, that means patient may be allergic to the drug. And if we found that patient is allergic to some drugs which is usually manifested through the rash or joint pain or swelling, so it will indicate drug induced liver disease. So it is very obvious if uh, patient patient or otherwise healthy, and if he started taking some medications, and after taking some medications if he gets jaundice, so obviously it will indicate drug-induced liver disease. And if again patient has previous history of rash or joint pain or swelling which started after taking medicine, so obviously it indicates patient had some allergic reaction to that medicine, and because of that medicine, patient may have jaundice also. Then if patient comes with an history of high colored urination with pale colored stool, so here high colored means that tea colored urination, and if patient has pruritus, and the patient has colicky pain in the right upper abdomen, which is usually associated with fever, rigors, and chills, which is usually suggestive of polylithiasis, means the symptoms in this third row, that is colicky pain, fever, and rigor or chills, they are usually suggestive of polylithiasis. So if patient comes with features which is usually suggestive of polylithiasis, and if patient has only pruritus, or if patient comes with a complaint of change in color of urine and pale color stool, so it usually indicates cholestatic jaundice. So that is obstructive jaundice. If patient comes with pale colored urination with mild yellowish discoloration of eyes, that means patient have yellowish discoloration of eyes, but it is usually mild. And again, there is paleness of urine. And again, if patient has history of anemia which is not responding to the hematinics, that means patient is taking some medications which will improve his hemoglobin level. So that is hematinics. So if patient has history of anemia which was not responding to hematinics and it required regular blood transfusion, means patient has taken some blood transfusion for that anemia. So such history usually indicates hemolytic anemia. So it is very easy to diagnose this hemolytic anemia only on the basis of history. So what you require, only history of anemia which is refractory to the hematinics and requires regular blood transfusion. So this is one history. And second point, what you need is pale colored urine with yellowish discoloration of eyes. So if these 2 points or such history it is found in a patient, so it will usually suggest hemolytic anemia. If patient has recurrent abdominal pain with radiation to the back, again, if patient has steatorrhea, so what is meant by steatorrhea? All you know. And if patient has fever with pain and distension of abdomen, it is usually suggestive of acute pancreatitis. So it is very obvious that you have recurrent abdominal pain, mostly in epigastric region and left hypochondriac region. And if this pain it is radiating to the back, again there is steatorrhea, and sometimes patient may have fever with distension of abdomen, so it will suggest acute pancreatitis. So if patient comes with such an history and patient has yellowish discoloration of skin, or you can say patient has jaundice with such type of history, so that means the cause of jaundice in this patient may be acute pancreatitis. So this is about history. So what history you need, what questions you should ask, that we have just seen. So the next part is physical examination. If the patient comes with jaundice, so what you will look, so you will look for the anemia. So that is obvious because we know the major cause for jaundice is hemolytic anemia. So first you will look for anemia. So if anemia is present, it may suggest hemolysis or liver disease. So why these are two conditions that we have already seen during classification of jaundice. Then next is pedal edema. If patient has jaundice associated with pedal edema, so it will indicate chronic liver disease and inferior vena cava obstruction. Then if patient has jaundice associated with lymphadenopathy, that means lymph node swelling, so it is indicative of infection. So that means some kind of infection is there, and because of this infection, there may be some hepatocellular dysfunction, and because of hepatocellular dysfunction, patient has jaundice. Then if patient comes with jaundice with altered mental status, that means patient is not well oriented. So in that case, you will suspect hepatic encephalopathy or sepsis. Then dilated abdominal veins, right upper quadrant tenderness, so or you can say organomegaly. So these are the features which usually indicate some liver disease. Again, ascites, it is also indicative of liver disease. In some patient, you may found bruit. So bruit means what? So basically, it is an audible, or you can say palpable, uh, or you can say audible vascular sound, which is due to turbulence of blood flow. So if such type of bruit is heard over liver region, so it is usually indicative of alcoholic hepatitis or some primary or metastatic cancer. So all these are physical examination points which are necessary when the patient comes with jaundice. So anemia, pedal edema, lymphadenopathy, altered mental status, dilated abdominal veins, organomegaly, and groups. All these features they are necessary when you deal with patients with jaundice. The next part is a laboratory investigation in which you need the measurement of serum bilirubin. So all you know that bilirubin is conjugated and unconjugated. So direct conjugated bilirubin, it is usually written as direct bilirubin on laboratory report, and unconjugated bilirubin, it is written as indirect bilirubin. So basically, these are based on Vandenberg reaction, which is used to determine the serum bilirubin level. The normal serum bilirubin concentration, it is usually less than 1 mg per dl. So that we have already seen. So out of this 1 mg per dl, nearly 30%, that is 0.03 mg per dl of the total bilirubin, it may be conjugated bilirubin. So if you found or you see the laboratory report, whenever there is measurement of bilirubin, so you will get total bilirubin. Below that you will get direct bilirubin and indirect. So direct and indirect. So if total bilirubin is 1 mg per dl, so out of this one, nearly 0.3 mg per dl will be conjugated bilirubin, and remaining zero point 0.7 it will be unconjugated bilirubin. The total serum bilirubin concentrations, they are between 0.2 to the zero point 0.9 mg per dl. So these are the readings which will vary if you refer various books or on websites, or even when you see laboratory reports. So on that also you will get some varying normal values for this serum bilirubin, but roughly you can say nearly 1.2 to 1.5 can be considered as normal. Measurement of urine bilirubin. So for that, a urine dipstick test is used, which gives the same information as serum bilirubin, and it is also very accurate. So the bilirubin which is found in the urine is conjugated bilirubin, that we have already seen. And the presence of bilirubin in urine, it usually implies the presence of liver disease. That is because the bilirubin which is found in urine is conjugated. So conjugation usually happens in liver. So that is obvious that if you are getting conjugated bilirubin in the urine, that means there is something abnormality in liver. So this is an algorithm where to deal with the patient with jaundice. So if first you should know uh, the history of the patient, that we have already seen. The next is physical examination, and third part is laboratory test. So which includes bilirubin level, liver enzymes, prothrombin time, and albumin level. So all these are the investigations which are necessary while dealing with the jaundice. And if there is only isolated elevation of bilirubin, that means these liver enzymes they are normal, albumin level normal, prothrombin time is normal, but only there is an elevation of bilirubin. So what we should do in that case, so next point is you should look whether conjugated bilirubin is increased or unconjugated. So if direct bilirubin is increased, so in that case it is usually suggestive of some inherited disorders like Dubin-Johnson syndrome and Rotor syndrome. But if indirect bilirubin is increased, that is indirect hyperbilirubinemia, which is usually more than in which the direct bilirubin is less than 50%. So in that case, the drugs may be the cause for the jaundice, like rifampicin and probenecid that we already seen, or it may be because of some inherited disorders like Gilbert syndrome and CN syndrome, that is Crigler-Najjar syndrome, or it may be because of some hemolytic disorder, that is ineffective erythropoiesis. But if the second scenario is if bilirubin is increased along with some other laboratory test, or you can say the liver enzymes, they are also elevated. So in that case, you should look for hepatocellular pattern, that is if liver enzymes they are elevated which are out of proportion to the alkaline phosphatase. So in that case, viral etiology is there, like viral hepatitis may be the cause, or toxicology that we already seen, like here it has been mentioned acetaminophen. Then ceruloplasmin if the patient is less than 40 years of age, and if patient has cholestatic pattern in which alkaline phosphatase it is out of proportion to the liver enzyme. So in first case, liver enzymes they were out of proportion to the alkaline phosphatase, and in second case, alkaline phosphatase is elevated out of proportion to the liver enzyme. So this is a cholestatic pattern. So in that case, obviously you would need ultrasound to locate where is an obstruction. So on ultrasound, you may get dilated ducts, extrahepatic cholestasis. So all these are the findings. So if you get dilated ducts or extrahepatic cholestasis, so further investigations which are needed, they include CT scan and ERCP, that is retrograde cholangiopancreatography. But if ducts they are not dilated, so it means there is an intrahepatic cholestasis. So in that case, you will need serological testing like AMA and hepatitis serologies like A, cytomegalovirus and Epstein-Barr virus. If they are negative, means this serological testing is negative. So in that case, you will need liver biopsy or MRCP. And if positive, again you will need liver biopsy. So this is how you will approach the patient with jaundice. So in mostly you will get mostly you will get the this type of scenario in your clinical practice, or you will get bilirubin which is elevated and it is associated with other liver enzymes also, but in this two pattern, or most of the time it is usually seen as hepatocellular pattern. Uh, the next part is differential diagnosis for the yellowish discoloration, or you can say the jaundice. So the most common differential for jaundice is keratinoderma, which can be distinguished from the jaundice by the sparing of sclera. And in keratoderma, the yellowish pigmentation, it is usually concentrated on the palm, soles, forehead, and nasolabial folds. And there is sparing of sclera. So in jaundice, you will get yellowish discoloration of sclera, but in keratoderma, there is no yellowish discoloration of sclera. It is usually found in a patient who eat vegetables and fruit that contain carotene. So basically, this occurs usually because of carotene, alright? So which is found in carrots, leafy vegetables, squash, right, oranges. So in this type of food, you will get this carotene. Second one is quinacrine, which is a drug, anti-malarial drug basically. So this is an anti-malarial drug which was used in previous time, but now it is rarely used. So quinacrine it usually causes Yellowish and bruise like discoloration. So along with yellowish, there is something bruise like discoloration of the skin, oral mucosa, nails, and sclera. This discoloration it is more prominent in fair skin patients. It is usually harmless. So this type of discoloration it is usually harmless and it will fade when the treatment is stopped. So if patient comes with this type of discoloration of the skin with bruise like discoloration, so in that case you will review his prescription or medications, and if you found the quinacrine, so what you should do, you just have to stop this quinacrine, and ultimately this will fade away. So it is usually harmless. So there is no need to take some medicine which will improve the liver or functions of liver. So you should remember this point that there is an absence of liver injury. Now the next part is homeopathic therapeutics. So in homeopathic therapeutics, there are various drugs which can be used for the management of jaundice. So in that, Bryonia, it is the most common drug you can think of whenever patient comes with jaundice. So indications for the use of Bryonia, they are stitching pains in the right hypochondriac region. So obviously it is indicative of polylithiasis as a cause for the jaundice. So on the basis of these symptoms, you can easily know that Bryonia it can be used for the polylithiasis induced jaundice. Again, it is one of the chief remedies for the jaundice which is brought on by fit of anger also. Chamomilla, it is also has this symptom, but the chamomilla patient they get hot and sweats. That means they sweat profusely, while the bryonia patient is apt to be chilly and though appears see hot. So that means chamomilla patient it is usually hot, whereas bryonia patient is usually chilly. So this is the differentiate between these two drugs. Next drug is mercurius, which is the remedy for the jaundice, which arises from the abuse of quinine when fever is present. So obviously, when an anti-malarial drug is used, and after using this anti-malarial drug, if the patient gets jaundice, so in that case, you may think of mercurius. This remedy it has much sensitiveness and dull pain in the region of liver, and the patient cannot lie on the right side. And again the liver is enlarged. So that means patient have hepatomegaly, and because of hepatomegaly patient is not able to lie on right side because it will cause pain. So and that area is usually sensitive and has dull pain. So it usually indicates hepatitis and polylithiasis. So these are the two conditions in which you can think of mercurius when patient comes with jaundice. Next drug is podophyllum, which induce a large flow of bile and secondarily great torpidity followed by jaundice. So simply you can think of use of podophyllum in obstructive jaundice. It is indicated in torpid or chronically congested liver when diarrhea is present. So that means if patient has jaundice, which is usually associated with diarrhea, so in that case also you can think of podophyllum. And chronically liver congestion, so it is usually seen in a right heart failure also. So in that case, you may think of podophyllum. Then next one is chelidonium, which is perhaps a greatest liver remedy. It causes liver to secrete thinner and more profuse bile than any remedy. So again, you can think of chelidonium when patient has obstructive jaundice, or you can say when the conjugation is decreased in the liver. So in that case, you can think of chelidonium. It is useful remedy to promote the expulsion of gallstones and to prevent their formation. So again, this line explains that if the patient has jaundice, which is due to obstruction, here extra hepatic obstruction has been mentioned. So if there is an extra hepatic obstruction which is causing jaundice in a patient, so in that case you can think of chelidonium. Next drug is Myrica cerifera, which is an important liver remedy. The first despondency and also the jaundice, which is due to the imperfect formation of bile in the liver. So simply it means if there is decreased conjugation of bilirubin in the liver, in that case you can think of Myrica cerifera, means patient will have unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia. So in that case, Myrica cerifera is a drug. The next remedy is Nux vomica. So in liver affections, which is occurring in those who have indulged to excess in alcohol, seasoned food, wine, or in those who have abused themselves with purgatives, Nux is the first remedy to be thought of. That means if patient has drug-induced liver disease and this drug induced liver disease is responsible for jaundice, in that case you can think of Nux vomica. Again, excess of alcoholic beverages. So it means if the patient has jaundice which is basically because of ethanol consumption or alcohol consumption, so in that case you can think of Nux vomica. So simply it means alcohol induced hepatitis. So if patient has alcohol induced hepatitis, so in that case you can think of Nux vomica. After Nux vomica, the most important remedy is lycopodium. So Dr. Alfred Pope, it claims that lycopodium it is more useful than any other remedy in old hepatic congestion. So whenever there are hepatic congestions, so in that case you can think of lycopodium. The indications they include is pain in back and right side from the congestion will often help to the remedy. So if patient has chronic hepatic congestion and because of this chronic hepatic congestion patient has jaundice, so in that case lycopodium is a drug and it is more useful than any other remedy. Then next one is Cardus-Mar, which is indicated in jaundice with dull headache, bitter taste, white tongue with red edges, nausea, vomiting of greenish fluid. So simply, if patient has hepatitis, so in hepatitis you can think of Cardus-Mar. So basically, this is a local acting remedy you can say, which is useful in the treatment of jaundice. But this jaundice it is usually associated with dull headache. So why there is dull headache? Because all these are symptoms like headache, bitter taste, white tongue, or nausea and vomiting. So all these are indicative of hepatitis. So in hepatitis, you can think of Cardus-Mar. Apart from these drugs, there are other medicines which can also be think of in the treatment or management of jaundice. So it includes sulfur, where the liver complaints they are from abuse of mercury will often call for this drug. Then phosphorus, which is homeopathic to the fatty degeneration of the liver with malware, soreness and jaundice. So whenever there is fatty degeneration of the liver, in that case you can think of phosphorus also. So this is all about jaundice. So in jaundice, we have seen what is mean by jaundice, its normal levels, then its uh, production, metabolism, and transport of bilirubin, then classification of jaundice, which was divided into pre-hepatic, hepatic, and post-hepatic jaundice. And then after that, we have taken some history, which covers or which usually gives clues for the diagnosis, for the cause of jaundice, then physical examination, then laboratory investigation and algorithm. And lastly, finally, the differential diagnosis and homeopathic therapeutics for the jaundice. So this is all about jaundice. Thank you.